I remember when we had lots of people coming, refugees coming from Syria to America, to this area, I would say. And one thing I was trying to do is to gather all of the people who do this work and just organize, coordinate, so we don't repeat the same job. We used to help new families coming to Maryland and Virginia, and we at one time I worked with several organizations to establish a database. But then I found there's a lot of people doing maybe the same thing. You give a car to this family, but then you found out there's another people giving a car to this family, the same
Yeah,
family.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, we did two meetings, I believe, here in Herndon, in Virginia, and we tried to do that. But the problem with not only the Syrians, I would say the people, our people, and
Yeah, I agree.
everybody is a leader. What they call it, there is everybody is a chief, and there's no Indians. That's
You can describe it
one.
this way, brother Muhammad, but I think the root of the problem is that we grew up for generations acting this way. So you're asking people who lived all their life in this mindset to change, and it's not. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a mistake. It's a situation that we need to come out of.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
And
it's not
it's
something easy to
most of
say.
it is coming out of need to help, but they don't know how to organize. Never had that experience before, and therefore they get sometimes somewhat frustrated and they start acting on their own.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Sohail joined us, so
Yeah. Before that, I had a meeting this past Friday with Hugh. Hugh, I think he's with us, and with Philippe Farah. Philippe is related to Muhammad Samamra. He's with us too. And that meeting was a great meeting because Philippe, I don't know if you guys don't know Philippe. Philippe Farah is from Al-Quds, Jerusalem, originally. He's a Christian from Palestine. He's related to lots of people in Gaza, Christian people, and he has a lot of experience. I mean, he would say, he is very active in this area, working for the Palestinian cause. I don't know if do you have a brief or impression before we start the discussion?
Yeah, I was
It was related
very,
to what Muhammad's saying. So
I was very
please,
happy to meet with Philip Farah, and he was really a font of information about different organizations that are involved in this. And I think what we're going to do at our church, we're going to try to get some kind of a presentation from his organization. I believe it was the Palestinian Coalition for Peace, I believe is the name of his organization. And so I hope to have some kind of a discussion, dinner, presentation. And he really talked about understanding the situation on the ground in Palestine and the difficulty of the occupation for so many years. At the same time, I want to contact my Jewish friends and have them do a similar presentation, so we can begin to get some kind of understanding of what's going on there. So those I hope to pull off later in the summer or fall, and I will certainly keep this group informed on that, and would encourage your participation to whatever extent you can do.
yes, I mean, I think, thank you. Dr. Sohail, do you want to take it from here or?
Well, no, this is great work. Anytime you try to frame the Palestinian cause correctly and promote it as a mainstream cause, that's the effective way. But angry reactions and temporary reactions or action or demonstrations, marches, and then you stop, that has never produced anything, and it will never produce anything. So I like this idea of having or turning this cause into mainstream cause, focusing on the humanitarian, but also focusing on the rights of people for self-determinations and on the American principles and American interests, because both of them are being violated. The principles that we keep claiming, we are violating them big times, and it's not serving the American interests. It's turning the whole world against America, and so this is something that is really can only be commended and encouraged. So, and you know that in this very pluralistic society, anything, no cause can be effectively advocated unless, one, it becomes mainstream, and two, you build a coalition around it. If a cause is served only by one group, and if it is not framed in a mainstream way, then it's not going to go anywhere. So those two steps, it's a mainstream framing or discourse, and broad coalition around of people coming from different faith, different organization, different. So it is no longer a Muslim issue or an Arab issue. Or Palestinian, of course.
Yeah, I don't think, do we have Sister Asma with us today? I think she raised some good points last time about aql and naql, intellect and script, or if am I correct in this translation?
Text.
Text, yeah. Thank you. So there is different. There is, I mean, not there is like a race, or not race, but there is people who followed or calling for text to control the intellect. And I think this is, if we do some deconstruction of what happened with Muslims in the time where major turn point happened, I think this is not just a basic, it's a small thing. It's a major thing that changed our life. After that, you barely find people trying to think or to analyze what's happening. It was just going down from that time, which is like 1200 or something, that time, about Seljuki time, until today. Muslim needs to start using their intellect more, and you can tell if maybe the Arab section is worse than the Islamic. I mean, the Turk or the Indonesian or Malaysian, they are maybe using some kind of intellect. But in the Arab area, we still having the same scenario keep repeating itself. I mean, there is lots of examples you can tell. There is no modernization, there is no industry, there is no education. I mean, at this time there is education, but at one time you barely find education in the whole empire, like the Turkish Empire. There was no universities, there was no schools. Education was really basic, just what they call it kutab, which is just teaching Quran and basic Arabic language. So I wish she is with us, but I don't think she is with us today. But that was major thing. I mean, controlling the intellect or limiting the power of mind. That's maybe until today is causing a lot of issues with
And I've been
Muslims.
discussing this in the last several weeks in Jumu'ah. Basically, I've been addressing three major questions: why our situation does not change, why the attempts of reform and change failed, even though they were very serious and people were sincere and the heavy price was paid, and how can we affect the change that we want. And then I proposed an approach saying that if we don't implement it correctly, things are not going to change. I started by saying that Quran says that situation is not going to change until people themselves change. Golden rule. Situation cannot be changed, and that's a verse. But the other one is says that situation cannot be changed by the same mindset that has created it. And then I talked about the approach, saying that you have to have the proper diagnosis, proper reading of history or his narration, clear and inspiring vision, effective strategy and roadmap to get there, and of course, effective execution of the plan. And while you're executing, you document, reassess, and be flexible to make adjustments and don't and cut losses if you find yourself in the wrong direction. I said that we have. I mean, if you violate only one item of this, change is not going to happen. But if you violate all of them, then of course, nothing is going to happen. And we start with the diagnosis itself. We have very superficial, and then the historical reading, very flawed, very wrong. Basically saying that we have been in good shape and great shape, and the religion was preserved until the last minute, until the collapse of the Ottoman state. That's very bad reading, which is totally wrong. And then I proposed a different reading of history. I think we can build on it. Said that Muslims basically, in the beginning, they established a system. There is no political system in Islam, but there are political principles. And in the beginning, all those principles were implemented, which are also common, same principle of democracy, leadership by consent, transparency, accountability, equal opportunity, and state that is based on constitution and citizenship. And that's the state that the Prophet established in Medina when he wrote an actual constitution and in which acknowledged this concept of citizenship. Then we have this explosive growth, which I just reviewed and found out that the two major battles in which Muslims swallowed or absorbed the two superpowers of the world at that time happened, one in August and the other in November. August 20, November 16. You're talking about small state absorbed two superpowers within less than 3 months. That basically created a huge mismatch and threw people out of balance because you don't have the capacity, neither the administrative capacity nor the integration capacity. It's like a country of couple 100,000 citizens, and they have 10 million refugees or 20 million refugees. How can you accept? How can you accommodate that? So, and then of course, chaos or trouble start to be brewing, and things went totally out of control. We went into civil war, very bloody civil war. Civil war led to establishment of the dynasty rule. Dynasty rule was legitimized by scholars. We have that partnership or that alliance between the dictatorship and clergy issuing fatwas a la carte or on demand. Dynasty rule and that alliance is not in their interest to have citizens to be aware. It's not in their interest for the original Islam to continue. So automatically, brain, and we came to the point of Brother Muhammad, the minds were frozen and the religion was frozen. Both. Religion was frozen, was essence of the religion, the sense of mission, the maqasid, the ultimate purposes, anything that can inspire and empower people and enlighten, everything was put aside. The only items that were left in the religion is the things that do not change people. Rituals, personal fiqh, what is allowed, what is not, what is forbidden for your individual personal life, and the appearances. And that does not change anything. Minds were frozen, religion was frozen. That caused a lot of damage, both to our understanding of Islam and to our mindset and to the Muslim mindset and personality. Unless we accept this reality, we're going nowhere. Any attempt of change that is not going to tackle those damages, it is bound to fail. And that's why all those attempts did not work, and they never work. You change regime, people rallied against occupation, colonization, they pushed colonization away. It came back in the form of indirect colonization. Brought people to Islam, that frozen Islam, nothing has changed. Topple a regime, dictators, another dictatorship comes in a different form. So basically why? Because you are building on a very shaky foundation. And I use the metaphor of building like constructing a building, shaky foundation. The foundation that we have, that Islam that we inherited, that narration of history that we inherited allows only for the situation that you see, which is basically stagnation and stability and getting by. Anytime you want to move forward toward like establishing democracy, toward development, toward becoming a progressive, advanced nation, the building collapses. It's like you have a weak foundation that allows only for one floor or two, and then you want to build more. Every time you build more, it collapses. So the minds were frozen for a long time, and for a reason. Because that type of governance that cannot coexist with the true Islam, and they want subjects, not citizens. We have seen it. We have lived and seen dictatorship. They don't want people to be aware of their rights. They want them to be subdued and obedient. So that's what we lived. But in this last Jumu'ah, I said, Europe and Muslims inherited almost similar situations with advantage for Muslims, because with all those deficiencies, we Muslims were in much better situation than Europe. But they reacted differently. Europe also inherited monarchy, absolute power, and inherited frozen religion and the hegemony of the church at that time. But they reacted differently. They did not say everything is fine, everything is great, and we just had the minor action. No. They developed new ideas. They revolted against that system. And they brought another paradigm. So rather than monarchy, there is democracy. And for the religion, we all know there is a Renaissance and there is the Reformation. So same situation, but the reaction was very different. We continued to freeze our minds and adopt the Salafi understanding of religion. We have that very rousy narration of history to the point that some people will tell you that system is the Islamic system that lasted for centuries. And the Islam that we inherited, that's the Islam. So we continue to freeze our minds. We continue to rely on the heritage and whatever we inherited. And we are yet to get out of that cycle, because without fresh ideas, without critical reading of that history, without critical minds and free minds that they can think, they can express their opinion, and nobody will suppress them, neither at home nor on social media. Just let people think freely and have that critical mind. And they mentioned some examples. They said, subhanAllah, in Quran praises people who think and contemplate and reflect. And they said that Quran is full of stories in which prophets having very decent conversation with their people. The people who are basically fighting them, and still have very decent conversation. And then we have Allah, God tells us to do something and explains it. Tells us this is why you do it, and this is why this is forbidden. What is this? That's an idea for you to train you to have that critical mind, to ask why. So Allah did not even wait for us to ask why, He explained it to tell us that that's how we should be thinking. Even with Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, to say why, and that's why He explained. And even when Ibrahim alayhi salam told Allah, show me how you bring the dead to life, Allah asked him, aren't you sure? أولم تؤمن? He said, no, I just want to be more comfortable. So Allah explained to him. I mean, this, and then even more than all of that, Allah had a conversation with Iblis. Why you don't make sujood? And then it's all of this is lessons for us to have that way of thinking, which is free and critical thinking, and then to be able to handle our differences. We failed miserably. Prophets talking to their people who are fighting them, and still decent conversation. Allah explains to us why He asks us to do things and forbids things. Allah had a conversation with Iblis. And nowadays you find two Muslims who differ on a political issue or a religious issue. ماذا؟ فقه, minor issue. They can't have a decent conversation. They quickly go to takfir and takhween and etc. You cannot say, I have a different opinion about this incident or this event or this matter or this religious or political matters. And then we want things to change, and then we complain why we have a dictatorship. Of course we have dictatorship, because all of us are dictators and waiting for the opportunity. We have that dictatorship in our blood, but of course, if you don't have a power, you cannot exercise dictatorship. But the moment you have a power, of course, rather than cursing people online or cursing people in conversation, you're gonna put them in jail and torture them when you have power. So any superficial reading of the situation and history and any attempt that is based on that superficial reading is bound to fail. Let's not fool ourselves. You can dream, you can have wishful thinking till the day of judgment. But as long as you're building on the same foundation and with the same mindset, with the same understanding of the religion, you're going to get the similar result and you're going to get nowhere. Until these minds are freed, until we have that, adopt that, put everything to scrutiny, put it on the table, don't take anything for granted. If Allah explains things to us, He's telling us not to take anything for granted from anybody. We should be the people, one. We should be the one who developed democracy a long time ago, because we had all the elements. We just needed to institutionalize it. And we relapsed to dynasty rule. And then we should be the first, in the forefront when it comes to critical thinking and creativity, because that's what the religion is encouraged us. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Those who contemplate, try to understand how this world functions. That's the whole idea of science. The whole idea, and Allah mentioned them in the same verse. يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم. They are always connected to Allah and always remember Him, etc. And وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ, and then they contemplate and reflect on the creation, how this universe functions, why things happen the way they do.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah.
All of this is great. I think there is, like you mentioned, the approach, and I think it might just I think you have mentioned this before, but I'm just going to add like leadership, because I think from the
That's true.
the list you mentioned, I think it was missing. If you can like mention a little bit about leadership, but I'm more interested into the continuation of the discussion in the end of the meeting last week, how to evaluate and how to go back and retrieve your lessons learned and to do the corrections. There is a need for that plan in order for everything to or moving forward. And keep adjusting until you come up with, like, you're never going to get the perfect plan from the first time, but it needs to be reevaluated and adjusted until you get somewhere. Plus, like, it needs to be with all of these changes, always your plan can have a space for upgrades. So what is our evaluation plan for this, and how we can approach this? I know it's not your job only, it's everybody else, but I think it would be worth discussing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. Of course, leadership is critical, essential element, but usually it is something that can come out organically when people have a cause, when people have a mission. So let's not wait for leadership to come, because in the back of the minds of many Muslims is we're waiting for the Mahdi, or we're not necessarily Mahdi, but we're always waiting for that great leader who's gonna lead us or save us. We shouldn't really, because we have seen in a number of cases when there is a movement or a mission and rallying cause, and you see leadership emerging, because there is a potential of leadership, but it usually doesn't work the other way around. I mean, we have some exceptions, but it doesn't work the other way around. When you have a leader who come up with a vision and sell it to people and convince them and rally them, it happens. But I don't think we should be waiting for it, because it may never happen. We'll be taking great chance. Now, when it comes to evaluation, I firmly believe that we need to stop this haphazard assessment that will call anything success. Why? Because there was no goals fixed. So if I don't tell you my vision or my goals, then whatever I do, I can call it success. That's what a lot of governments are doing. They establish a school or construct a bridge, and they say we're successful. Look at the road that we have done, or this bridge, or that school, or this hospital. Why? Because they never told you, they never fixed any, decided on any goals. So I always believe that assessment has to be evaluated. One, against goals. How much of your goals did you achieve, if you ever had goals? Number two, compare it to the opportunities and resources that were available to you. To what extent you mobilize them efficiently and utilize the resources that are available efficiently. Number three, compare to others who were in a similar situation and achieved a lot more than you. Why? So these are our people, they avoid these. They will tell you, for example, look at where we were before. We were in much worse situation, okay? So nowadays we should be happy because we are better off. That's bad, because if the past was extremely bad, then you'll be happy with anything. That should never be a reference. This Syrian dictator, bloody Syrian criminal dictator, he lowered one of his many crimes, that regime. He lowered the ceiling or the aspirations of the people. Why? Because he made it so bad in terms of brutality and corruption and stealing the money and failure, and so bad that almost anything will look good. So we should not fall in that trap. And we should, especially when we have leaders, we should hold them accountable. What's your vision, especially if I have a chance to elect you? Based on what? How much did you achieve of the plan? And then resources and opportunities that were available, and then benchmarking with other people. Because you know why? All Muslim governments or governments in the Muslim world, especially the Arab world, they avoid that because they will fail on all counts. First of all, when it comes to goals, either they didn't have any or they gave us empty promises. This is what they're going to do. This is what they're going to achieve, and nothing was achieved. Number two, resources are there. Human resources and opportunities were there, but they were not taken advantage of. Number three, other people and nations and I mean, South Korea was behind Egypt. Wasn't very long time ago. It was South Korea was compared with people used to compare it with Egypt, Sudan, and Yemen, etc. Where is South Korea now? So don't tell me that because you build a school or a hospital or you are a successful government. No. We need to have a solid reference for assessment, and we need to learn to hold leaders accountable and not give them blank check or tell them that you were great regardless, even if you failed. Remember the story of Abdel Nasser? He led his country to one of the worst defeats in history, where all the airplanes were destroyed in the bases, in their bases. That one of the worst, humiliating defeats in history. Yet he was treated as a hero. And I think I mentioned this before, that Time magazine, I think it's in cover page, had hail the conqueror, and then they crossed the conqueror and put the loser. This is the only case in history where people are praising and hailing a loser. And when he went to the Arab League meeting, people lifted him with his car, on his car as a hero. And people were celebrating in Egypt just because he did not, he decided to come back when he proposed to resign. And in Syria, same thing. Syria and Egypt government were telling the people that we were not defeated because the purpose was to topple the Ba'ath in Syria, and they did not succeed, the Ba'ath party, and to topple Nasser in Egypt, and they did not succeed. So we should be happy and celebrate victory.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Yanuti. I just had a question. I've been listening to your lectures for a long time. You said the Salafi mode of thinking, the mindset. So basically, in short, can you tell me what it is, the Salafi thinking?
the Salafi, there are two ways to explain. There is the technical word is there are groups are calling themselves Salafi. But the Salafi mindset is almost every Muslim. The Salafi mindset is based on the idea, a couple of ideas that are very dangerous. They guarantee stagnation. They are based on the idea that the Islam that we inherited is the true Islam. And the work that was done by the Salaf, the people before us, was good enough until the day of judgment. So basically, you shouldn't be thinking at all. So they suppressed completely the role of the intellect in a religion. No ijtihad whatsoever. You just rely on naql, rely on the books that you find. Things reached a point where they're telling the first of all, they call them the awam. Basically, they are the average people who do not. And there are the scholars and there are the awam. Scholars are so we created some sort of clergy, even though we don't have it. Then they will tell you that the masses, these masses, one, they cannot understand the Quran. Quran is only for scholars. Okay. How about hadith? No, they cannot understand hadith. Even the hadith, because there are sciences of hadith and very complicated, so you shouldn't even try. So never go and try to understand or hadith. Okay. How about the books of fiqh and jurisprudence and heritage books like Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Kathir, and Ibn Qayyim, etc. No, even those you can't understand them. The sheikh has to read them for you. So your job is to listen, but your brain should never function. So you memorize, you attend lectures of the shuyukh or their channels, and listen and memorize. The more you memorize, the more knowledgeable you are. This is in brief. Salafi, the frozen understanding of religion that is calling for freezing the mind. And that guarantees stagnation. With this mindset, with this understanding of religion, there is no way we can change our situation. And that's why they have been always opposing any change. History is full of situation that when the VCR was came out, they were against it. TV were against it. Transplant of organs were against it. Blood transfusion, they were against it. They were against everything because everything is haram until proven otherwise. And then, of course, after they waste years of people's lives, they sometimes come back and make adjustment, and some of them, they don't even do it. Political participation is haram. I remember we had that discussion here. In most mosques, nobody can dare. Nowadays, we can say it in khutbah, but at that time, nobody can talk about voting or political participation because the prevalent idea was that no, it is not. This is not. It's not. It's haram. So that's unfortunately it's very dominant to the point that almost every Muslim is Salafi until proven otherwise. Because if you don't think freely, if you don't have a critical mind, if you don't call for ijtihad, if you don't dare to say that any hadith that is not consistent with the Quran or with the fundamental principles of Islam, at least we have to put a question mark on it. At least. In most parts of the Muslim world nowadays, saying something like this can put you in deep trouble. If you just say that Bukhari and Muslim did wonderful job, a lot of scrutiny, great job, but it's human effort. It's not 100%. And we should not hesitate, at least to question a hadith in Bukhari or Muslim if it contradicts a verse in Quran, we don't have to twist the verse in Quran or contradicts a very fundamental principle in Islam. Any hadith that is not consistent with no compulsion in religion has to be put under, has to be questioned. There is no compulsion in religion. That's a verse. La ikraha fi din. Allah gave people the right, the freedom to choose, to believe or not to believe. If somebody says no, there is a hadith that says you have to fight people until they become Muslim. I mean, you're gonna have to choose, and of course, Quran takes precedent.
During which period was this Salafi movement started? Where exactly? Was it Saudi Arabia?
No. It's a long time ago. It's many centuries ago. Again, it is number one. Part of it was innocent. Part of it was that people were afraid that there will be bid'ah and deviation in religion and etc. So let's keep it. Let's stop thinking because we have enough fiqh and enough body of knowledge, and those who were closer to the Prophet, they knew more and they were more pious. So part of it was innocent. It was a very extreme reaction to worrying about deviation. It's the same way that people had an extreme reaction to chaos and civil war, bloody civil war that led them to accept dictatorship that established law and order and stability. So part of it was innocent and extreme reaction. People have the best of the intention. They are afraid. They want to preserve Islam. But what they did not know that Islam is preserved by ijtihad, not by freezing it. It's by that contemplation and reflection and renewal and revival, etc. That's how Islam remains fresh and remains relevant, etc. So, but part of it was because that type of governance requires religion and to be frozen and minds to be frozen. You cannot rule people the same way. You cannot have absolute power if people have the proper understanding of religion and they use their brain, they use their intellect. And that's exactly what happened in Europe. In Europe, the old system was based on that, was based on people taking everything for granted, etc. So when Europeans start to think critically and freely and start to scrutinize what they inherited, number one, they become creative and excelled. But number two, that system could not continue, could not sustain, because it was based on a different foundation. It was based on frozen minds and frozen religion and frozen everything. Now these minds have started functioning and they start scrutinizing and not taking anything for granted, and they think critically. That system collapsed. Cannot. And that's why, on the other hand, for us, even when we change the roof, we have another similar roof that comes back because we never changed the foundation. We are still building on the same foundation, on the same frozen understanding of religion that we inherited, which was mutilated and twisted big times, and with this idea that we can change our conditions with the same mindset and with the same understanding of religion. Never happened and never will. With the same mindset, with the frozen minds that take things for granted easily, and with that frozen and twisted understanding of religion, you cannot get more than what you see.
Yeah. So can you say that it is 1,000 years we are not doing ijtihad? Can you say?
It's more. It's about
More.
13 centuries.
Oh, I see. Oh my God. So if you combine this with the accusation to Ghazali that he stopped all the scientific progress because he said to the philosophers that he discouraged them and all that. And at that time, the philosophers were scientists too. So that means we have come to a dead halt, both in religion and both in science.
Of course, because that frozen understanding of religion was opposing any change and any innovation. And in particular, they fought philosophers, they fought scientists. I mean, we take pride in many scientists in our history, but we don't know that they were persecuted, most of them. So why? Because they come up with something new. And the prevalent understanding of Islam say, كل محدثة بدعة. Of course, it's the meaning, the true meaning may be correct. Muhdatha meaning every deviation from religion, but not every innovation. I mean, that's how we understand it, unfortunately. So people, and I mentioned before that the work of Ibn Rushd were part of the foundation on which the Western civilization were built. Whatever remained, but Muslims burned a number of his books. His books were burned. Why? Because he's thinking out of the box. It's just being creative and critical and independent think you can't. Until now, we have the same problem. Just anybody dares to have to say a different opinion than the prevalent one, and you'll be attacked and accused all kinds of accusations.
Yeah, but Ibn Rushd was believing in the Aristotle's philosophy, basically, right? He was just.
That's what we were told. We didn't read his work, but there are people who are reintroducing his work, and it's very different from what we were told.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, we should really come to the point that, with the exception of few things that are aqidah, beliefs, then there is a huge room for thinking and for differing.
Yeah.
Turning Islam into very rigid and put it in one shape or form that everybody has to accept it this way, it's the biggest crime that was done to this very inspiring and very empowering religion. Just let people think, and let people think freely, and let people express their opinion freely. And if we failed until now, can we try at least to raise another generation or the next generation with free, independent, critical minds? And let's not suppress, let's allow the child to ask why and spend the time to explain and allow them to express their opinion. Don't make everything taboo. You can't discuss this. You cannot say that. You cannot do this. You cannot. Why? We're crippling the people, even though the religion is meant to free them. Quran says about the prophets, يَضَعُ عَنْهُمْ إِصْرَهُمْ وَالْأَغْلَالَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ. That the job of the prophets and the revelation is to free people from the shackles, from things that are holding them back. So we need to work hard to stop this process of one generation passing on to other generation, the same mindset, the same, and then let people encourage free thinking, encourage independent thinking. You don't have to go with the flow. You have to be brave and have that self-confidence to say, yes, the flow is going in this direction, but I still have a different opinion.
So what happened? It's very sad, because Quran says that it was revealed for tadabbur, and it also says it has been made easy for. Is there anyone
for people to understand? Yeah.
And we are not doing that, and it was stopped.
It's never too late. It's never too late if we accept. I mean, we have seen even in recent history what happened to Germany, what happened to Japan, what happened to Vietnam, what happened. But these countries, they have the proper assessment of what happened and what went wrong, and that's why they were able to come up. to emerge from really. Germany was devastated, and Japan, and but when you have the proper understanding of where you are, how and why you came to this point, what went wrong, then you're gonna rebuild in a different way. But when you keep saying no, it was a conspiracy, nothing wrong. No, actually we were victorious. We didn't even lose. We were not defeated. We're good. And if something went wrong, it's not our problem. It's because of them. Then, of course, mistakes are going to be repeated. And situation will not change. جزاكم الله خير إن شاء الله. We'll meet next Sunday إن شاء الله.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.